how's it going? My name is Natalie. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've been a criminal defense attorney for 10 years. And today we are going to be dismantling a sovereign citizen argument. This is not going to be an arrest. This is going to be a sovereign citizen explaining kind of like a how-to for other sovereign citizens. I've already watched this video just because I wanted to get an idea of what he was talking about and do some research on the cases that he cited. And we're going to break down why he is wrong about everything that he says. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody. My name is Akeem Duran, and this is another segment of Sovereign America, Freedom Fighters. The date is December 27th, 2020. Before I get started, I'd like to say this isn't legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. This is simply an educational segment and shedding light and telling you some concepts and different things that work for others. So let's just dive right into it.
That will be the first and last correct thing that Akeem says, which is that he is not giving legal advice. And he cautions his listener that, or viewer, that this is not legal advice. And he's right, it's not. And I want to commend him for doing that because he should not be giving advice if he doesn't have the qualifications to do so. And so anyway, here we go. That's the context through which you should listen to what he has to say.
As I spoke on before, you got rights. Your rights have been converted into privileges, okay? So an example of your rights being converted into privileges is you got the right to travel, right? And it's been converted to driver's license. You have the right to bear arms. It's been converted to a firearm.
Okay, so I'm going to stop Akeem right there. So you do have rights and you do have privileges, and there are differences between rights and privileges. Rights are what's thought of as inalienable, meaning that under our system of government, while there is a separation of church and state, it does come from what's called the Judeo-Christian legal system. And that set of ideas does contain the doctrine that there are God-given or inalienable rights, meaning rights that you are born with, rights that you don't earn, rights that cannot be taken away from you. And then there are privileges. There are things that you earn, things that you work for, or things that can be taken away from you. Like you can earn a driver's license, you can work towards getting a concealed carry permit, and those things can be taken away from you. But although our rights are inalienable, it is sometimes a misnomer. The reason that I say that is because your rights can be regulated. So for example, while you have the right to be free of any unreasonable searches and seizures, that right can be taken away from you if you commit a crime in front of a police officer. They can then search you if they have probable cause to arrest you. You have a right not to have your home searched, but that can be taken away from you if there's a warrant that is given with probable cause and signed by a judge, right? You have the right to freedom of speech. However, you cannot scream fire in a crowded theater. You cannot make a significant threat to someone's life, all right? So you can't threaten someone's life. You can't verbally harass someone after being told to stop verbally harassing them. So all of your rights have limitations for various reasons. Some of those reasons are for community safety. Some of them are because the government has the right to make time, manner, and place restrictions on the way in which you can exercise your rights for an orderly society. So, for example, while you can gather, you have the right to assemble, you can speak out, you have the right to have a protest. That's a First Amendment right. All of those things are under the First Amendment. There are still time, manner, and place restrictions where the state or the city or the locality can all say that, you need to have a permit in order to gather in this place at this time. And those permits cannot be given out discriminatorily. Everyone has to have access to the permit, no matter what their viewpoint is or their demographic background is. But the government has the right to put time, place, and manner restrictions on every single one of your rights. even though they cannot wholesale take those rights away from you. As far as privileges are concerned, that's a little bit different. The government has even more freedom to say who they're going to give those privileges to. Of course, it can never be, we're not going to give, liquor licenses to Black people, or we're not going to give liquor licenses to Asian people. We're not going to give driver's licenses to disabled people. They can't say things like that. But what they can say is that we are going to make a certain set of rules that everyone can follow in order for them to be able to get a liquor's license, a driver's license, a concealed carry permit. We're going to make it so that, if you want to smoke, you have to be over a certain age. If you want to run for office, you have to be over a certain age. All of these things you have the freedom and the rights to do, but the state has more leeway to put regulations on them.
You obviously got the right to do a lot of different things. And I'm just going to give a couple Supreme Court rulings on these topics. These Supreme Court rulings can be located online. It's public information. So let's just jump right into it. U.S. versus Morris, 125 F322.
Okay, so already Akeem is making some misrepresentations here to his audience. He said that he has some Supreme Court cases for his audience, but United States v. Morris, 125 F322 is not a Supreme Court case. That is a case in the Federal Circuit, which means that it is not controlling on anyone other than the people that are in that circuit. U.S. v. Morris, 125 F322 is a 1903 case from the District Court of Arkansas, Eastern Division, in the United States. So again, not a Supreme Court case.
Dash 325. Every citizen and freedman is endowed with certain rights and privileges to enjoy, which no written law or state is required. These are the fundamental and natural rights recognized amongst all free people.
This case doesn't have anything to do with the fundamental right to travel. There is no Supreme Court case that he quotes about, or any case that he quotes that concerns the right to travel. And we'll talk about why that's problematic.
Butchers Union Company versus Creston City Company.
Oh, and just to make it 100% clear, this case that he cited, which is U.S. v. Morris, is about Black citizens were being stopped from exercising the right to lease and cultivate land. And this case found that private citizens could not conspire in order to stop Black citizens from being able to exercise the right to lease and cultivate land. So again, had nothing to do with the right to travel. So while the statement that he said is correct, it doesn't apply to the right to travel or the privilege to drive.
Our rights cannot, by acts of Congress, be bartered away, given away, or taken away. Okay?
So that case was Butchers Union versus Slaughterhouse and Livestock Landing Company. That case is from 1884. That is a Supreme Court of the United States case, again, from 1884. And it comes out of Louisiana, and it has to do with livestock monopolies, and the government was able there, even though what he's saying is true, that the government cannot overextend itself to take away rights. There, they found that the government did not overextend itself by making laws that made livestock company monopolies illegal, basically, because the state has a vested interest in competition in the free market. And therefore, they had the right to put out regulations where these different livestock companies could not just come in and take over all of the industry so that there was a monopoly present. So the argument he's trying to make about the state committing overreach by putting in place laws which restrict someone's rights, which is like, the right to participate in commerce here, that restricts someone's rights. The state was still able to make this restriction because the federal government, the Supreme Court, and the Constitution recognizes the right for states to put certain restrictions on inalienable rights.
This one's real powerful. It says Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 105. Okay. No state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee to it.
Okay, so here, the case of Murdoch versus Pennsylvania is a 1943 Supreme Court case, and it has to do with the freedom of religion. And in that case, basically, these people were on federal property or they were on state property, and they were trying to give out pamphlets about their religion that also advertised the selling of a book. And the government has the right to put limitations or on people that are doing commercial sales on federal property. Basically, you have to have a permit in order to do that. And what they were saying is that you can't do that for these particular handbills that were advertising these books and the religion and things like that, because the ultimate goal of what these people were doing was being evangelicals and promoting their religion, which is protected under the Constitution. And this was not the type of commercial speech that can be regulated by the government. This is free speech concerning religion. So again, it's about constitutional or state overreach into someone's protected rights, where the Supreme Court found that the state did in fact overreach. But notice again, this has nothing to do with the constitutional right to travel, which is ultimately what his video is about.
A state may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right granted by the federal Constitution.
And again, sounds great in theory that the state cannot impose a charge in order for someone to exercise a right. But once again, you notice how this case is not talked about, and he is not talking about any cases that talk about the right to travel or the privilege to drive.
Okay. Here goes another powerful one.
Okay.
Shuttlesworth versus City of Birmingham, 373 U.S. 262. If a state converts a liberty into a privilege, the citizen can engage in the right with impunity.
Okay, so yes, that is true. However, the right that they were talking about here, which the liberty, the freedom that they were talking about here, is the freedom of free speech. This case, Shuttleworth versus the City of Birmingham, Alabama, is a Supreme Court case from 1963 concerning the civil rights movement. These were pastors and ministers that were helping people to protest against certain segregation laws. And since the protests against the segregation laws were legal, the pastors could not be guilty of conspiring or helping them to commit these protests because the protests were legal. Once again, excellent sentiment in theory, and you would think, oh, these are great arguments for why states should not be able to impose licensing restrictions, fees, or fines on the ability or the privilege to drive. However, this case had nothing to do with the right to drive. This case was about civil rights, about segregation, about racial discrimination. That's what this case was about.
So basically, these case laws can be used verbally, against the police, or really not against, but to enforce, We're not against anything. We just want our due process. That's another big word, due process. It's so tricky that...
Okay. So while he does not want his viewers to fight with the police, I think that's great that he cautions them. We're not really arguing, but we want our due process. You get your due process in court. You do not, and I've said this time and time again, you do not argue the law or cite law to police officers. When you're interacting with the police, these are the things that you do. The officer stops you, you can ask him or her why they stopped you, right? You can ask him or her if you're free to leave. You're not free to leave in a traffic stop. You never are, but you can always ask. If they ask to search your vehicle, no, you do have to give them your license and registration. If they proceed to search your vehicle after you tell them no, you just preserve the fact that I said no, I did not consent to this, and then they search, you don't fight with them, whatever happens, happens, right? If you don't have your license and registration, you can either say, I would prefer not to say anything at this time. I don't have my license and registration to give to you, and say nothing else and go on from there. Get your citation. Maybe you'll be arrested, but then you'll get out because it's just a minor infraction, and then that's it, right? You do not want to argue case law with the police officer. You argue your case at trial in front of the judge. Now, will these arguments, these cases that he gave you guys to cite or his viewers to cite, will those be successful? That's ultimately what the question is.
When you're born, you get a birth certificate.
I want you to notice how from this point on, he has put away his case law, and now he's going to just be talking like off the top of his head.
And then you go purchase maybe a car or a vehicle. And you put the car vehicle in that name. That name is actually owned by the government and the Department of Transportation and things like that.
No, that is not true. Your name is not owned by the government or the Department of Transportation, okay? You having a birth certificate does not make that happen. You own your name. You can trademark your name to keep other people from using it. You have the superior interest in your name. No one else owns your name but you.
That's why they're able to come get your vehicle, because the name that it's under is a fictitious business entity. Now that's a whole nother.
I'm not sure what he means by come get your vehicle, other than maybe to tow your vehicle or repossess your vehicle or something like that. But the ability for a private corporation to repossess your vehicle is that they actually own the vehicle and you're leasing it or have an agreement with them to pay for it, and it's the vehicle's collateral on that loan, and they can repossess the vehicle as collateral on that loan. But that has nothing to do with your name or anything like that.
The conversation as well, but I'm going to give you a piece of it since I started. Okay, so there's four types of law.
There are more than 4 types of law.
Equity. Having a brain fart. Anyway, let's just jump into the birth certificate, okay? And the jurisdiction we've been putting under. So a ship travels through water. You traveled on your mother's water. A ship travels through a canal. You traveled through your mother's water through a birth canal. A ship ports from land to water to a dock. You left your mother's water through a canal to a doctor. Upon your arrival, because you're a
I forgot about this part. What about people that don't come out of their mother's birth canal? What about people that come through C-section? They don't go through the birth canal. And once again, although these metaphors are quite lovely and poetic, although graphic, none of them are based in law. He does not have a single case cite for this argument that he's making. You will not find a single case that cites the birthing process as having anything to do with the laws applying to you or not applying to you.
Natural resource, you were commercialized, okay?
No.
What commercialized means that birth certificate, okay? If I were to say my name is Akeem or I'm Akeem Duran, I would say I'm Akeem of the Duran family.
That has no legal effect whatsoever. And he has not, see how he had case law for you in the beginning, although it's incorrect, and I'll explain more later. He had case law for you in the beginning, but he has no case law now. And he's just kind of saying these things, but with nothing to back it up.
Okay, Mr. Duran is my legal person that was created by my parents to represent me in business and commerce. See, this is a briefcase. This is business and commerce, guys.
That is not a briefcase.
That's what this all boils down to. It's just business. Anytime you sign something, it's a contract, okay? So if you don't like something on the contract, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to alter those contracts. Any type of contracts. And that's a real powerful segment too. So you're not going to want to miss out on that. I hope you guys got a little off of this video.
No.
And it was informative, and it's going to help you. It's going to help you. What we're trying to do,
It is not going to help you. This was all very, very bad advice.
we're trying to slowly get your mind wrapped around some of these concepts, some of these ideas, and knowing that, hey, maybe there is some new information out there. Maybe there is some of this stuff that I can use and not go to jail with. Not to just stand up and fight and get your window broken because you don't want to show them your driver's license. It's not about that. It's bigger than that. Okay? And I'm going to show you guys how to walk the fine line of not wanting to be a part of this, but reaping the benefits of it. That's what it's about at the end of the day.
If only we could all do that. And I think that's what they're just looking to do, is get as many benefits as possible without having to follow the rules.
Remember to like, subscribe.
Nope, not doing that. All right, Akeem seems like a lovely person. He seems very nice, but just misinformed. I do want to point out something that he did, though, that is contradictory and kind of elucidates how poor or bad his argument is. He cited 2 cases that talked about our general rights under the Constitution and how the state cannot overstep in regulating those rights. Not that they can't regulate the rights at all, but they can't overstep in regulating those rights, okay? But if you notice, each and every single one of his cases, aside from the fact that some of the cases said the states did not overstep, in every single one of the cases, they had nothing to do with the right to travel, although what his video is ultimately about is the right to travel and then having an issue with having to have a driver's license since you have this right to travel. Well, when you're going to court to argue certain things, you have to not only argue legal principles, those legal principles have to be relevant to the issue. So it has to concern the issue that you're arguing about. So you have to have cases that concern the right to travel. And you would think by the way that these sovereign citizens speak in court and with police officers and in their videos, that there are just like magically no cases on the right to travel. There must not be a single one because they have to make all these other arguments to kind of show like, oh, see, so the right to travel should just be treated like this because, you know, there's no other case on it. False. There are cases on the right to travel that contradict everything that they say and prove what they say to be incorrect. Let's first look to a case in the United States Court of Appeals 9th Circuit, since he looked to federal circuit cases. And it is called Miller v. Reed. It is more recent. It's from 1999 instead of 1903 or whatever. And it is found at 176 F3D 1202. So in that case, the court found that the defendant or the person does not have a fundamental right to drive a motor vehicle, and the DMV did not unconstitutionally impede his right to interstate travel by denying him a driver's license. The state's denial of a driver's license for refusal or of applicant to provide a social security number did not violate the applicant's right to interstate travel, as there is no fundamental right to drive. Mendoza v. Garrett, United States Court, District Court of Oregon, December 12th, 2018, 358, Federal Supplement 3D, 1145. For substantive due process purposes, there is no fundamental right to drive, nor is there a fundamental right to a driver's license. Wright v. Family Support Division of Missouri, Department of Social Services, from 2020, 458 Federal Supplement 3D 1098, and this was about civil rights and equal protection. So it basically says that Missouri's statutory system for the suspension of non-custodial parents' driver's license who were unable to pay court-ordered child support did not violate the fundamental right to travel. Even assuming a right to interstate travel existed, although the inability to legally drive was an extreme hardship to parents, burdens of a single mode of transportation did not implicate the right to interstate travel. Let me explain that to you a little bit better. You can travel wherever you want. You just can't drive without a driver's license. Driving is only one mode of travel. You can roll, you can walk, you can run, you can put on some cross-country skis. You can get in a rowboat, get in the ocean, rowboat on up to Hawaii if you want to do that, you know? But you can't drive without a driver's license, and there's no fundamental right to drive, and it does not implicate the right to travel. League of United Latin American Citizens versus Bredsden. and this is a 2007 case, 500 Federal 3D 523. Driver's license law did not impinge on any fundamental right to travel possessed by temporary residents for purpose of equal protection analysis. Okay? So even though the driver's license law made it so that these people could not drive, it did not impinge on any fundamental right to travel. Thomas v. Haslam. This is a 2018 case. Again, new cases, up-to-date cases, current cases. 303 Federal Supplement 303 Federal Supplement 3D 585, right? The Sixth Circuit has held that there is no fundamental right to drive a motor vehicle, okay? The constitutional case law has recognized no fundamental right to drive a motor vehicle. There is no fundamental right to drive. So although he has very lovely language that deals with a state's inability to restrict our rights past a certain point, or their ability to restrict the rights depending on what's happening in the particular case, he has not cited a single right to drive or right to travel case. And all the right to drive and right to travel cases make clear that there is no fundamental right to drive. There is a right to travel, no right to drive. Okay? And that's what's clear from the case law. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!